All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Brian Townsend. Brian, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thanks, Kevin. I look forward to it.
I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this too. And, I want to start off. I want to give a shout out to the Quoted platform because, you and I wouldn't have met without them and the work that they do on that platform. But more importantly, so is she your PR gal, Brian? I mean, what role does Allison hold in your life?
She is. She is public relations expert. I mean, she's one of the things I struggled with early on was I had a very small circle. I had my influence was through law enforcement, and I was really trying to build my brand, especially our work with the nonprofit Only 2MG.
Okay.
And she just absolutely believes in me and believes in what we're doing and has a big heart and wants to make this world a better place. And that's kind of my mantra. And she is all in, and she's offered her services and her team, and they're wonderful people. And they have really, to give you an idea, we went from 4 or 5 podcasts to I think we're at 40 now. National news, Fox, CNN, a lot of publications, and this is all because of the work by her and her team. I'm very thankful to have
Yeah,
her in my life.
that is awesome. Well, I'll tell you, we had put my assistant had put a listing, I guess you would call it, on the Quoted platform,
Yeah,
and Allison was one of the people that reached out to us for through that. And I'll tell you, she just spoke incredibly highly of you, so much so she definitely got my attention. I'm like, well, man, based on what she said, yeah, I definitely want to meet this Brian guy and get to know him a little bit. And,
yeah, that's awesome, and that's
uh,
what she does. She's often the first point of contact, and she now knows me and what I do, and
yeah,
she's my training, and it's wonderful to have an advocate like that to
you bet, you
really
bet.
push for you, and just a good person, like I said,
Yeah,
who really wants to see good in this world.
for sure. And that is such a testament to the power of right relationships, which of
Yeah.
course is what this podcast is all about. And what an awesome testament that is right there. And so maybe Allison will at least get to, hear a little bit of this and know how much, people appreciate her and the work that she does and stuff. And
Yeah, I
that's
hope so. Gaffney Austin is her company, gaffneyaustin.com, and I plug it as much as you can because
yeah,
she
yeah,
deserves that recognition. And if there's
you
any
bet.
business that can be thrown her way, I'm telling you, I literally went from unknown to I just had a reporter call me today. I mean, my number's out there, my information's out. 99.9% of that is because of the work of.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm going to give this a second here because my Zoom froze up here. Hmm.
Allison and her. Wow, I'm not sure what happened there.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not sure either. That's all right though. We'll just keep rolling here, and if I need to edit that out, we can edit that on this end. So, but
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, that is such an awesome testament to the power of relationships, and yeah, you Allison is definitely someone who believes in you and what you guys are doing, and that is awesome. And I'm just as appreciative for her for reaching out. And so why don't we? What I want to do is I want to start off by turning it over to you, Brian, and I want to set some context for our listeners here, and I want you to be able to just talk about what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work you get to do and the impact you're making, and also share some of the backstory of how you got into doing what you do now as well.
Sure, I'll give you my story.
Yeah.
I grew up in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., and reinvented myself by moving 1,500 miles in the middle of the country to a college that I only knew one person in the entire state at.
Wow.
So that was what I call literally my reinvention, and got a couple degrees, stayed in the area, became a police officer. That was I loved being a police officer, but it was my stepping stone for my goal, which was to be a special agent with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. So 28 total years in law enforcement, 5 years as a police officer, and 23 with the DEA.
Okay.
And the DEA took me all around the country and got to work with amazing people from not only DEA but other federal, state, and local agencies, and very appreciative of that and learned quite a bit. And I knew that I was going to somehow make some of the things I learned uh, part of my post career.
Okay.
And I thought we had a freeze on the internet here. I'm sorry.
No, I think we're good.
So yeah, so I retired though from the DEA in 2022. My last assignment, I was in Springfield, Missouri. I was in
Okay.
charge of the DEA office in Springfield, in the 25 or so Southwest Missouri counties that we were responsible for. And I loved it. DEA was a good career and a good agency, but I had another chapter in my book to write. Uh,
Okay.
so I retired and started my own training consulting business, which is called Eagle Six Training.
Hmm.
And originally, my idea was to work in non-law enforcement. Nothing against law enforcement, but all my contacts from the last 30 years of my life have been in law enforcement. So
Yeah.
naturally, I had to I gotta put food on the table, right? So I had to contact the contacts I knew and work those. And I do work outside the law enforcement community as well. But so I started that, and then that led me into working with the Mid-States Organized Crime Information Center. That's a mouthful.
Okay.
MOCIC. And they hired me as a law enforcement training coordinator, part-time work, and then it turned into full-time work. So I train law enforcement in 9 states in the Midwest through this organization.
Okay.
Uh, and they asked me originally to develop drug curriculum because of my background with DEA and law enforcement. So I was building, drug schools, surveillance, informants, interview, just things that are related to or associated with drug enforcement. And the first drug ID class I wrote was on opioids, illicit fentanyl, because it was a growing problem in the United States. And I delivered my first opioid class in October of 2022, and it went really well. It was a 2 hour class, and it went really well. So I did one in October, November, and December. And those were kind of my pilots in a way, really trying to feel my way and make sure that the curriculum was strong and that I was delivering good training. And then that just took off. It really did. 2023, we ended up doing it, I don't know, 25, 30 times. The curriculum ended up going to 4 hours. And then in 2024 was when we really started to, we were really building a grassroots effort, if you will.
Hmm.
And we ended up doing the presentation over 50 times in 2024 alone, traveled to like 22 states. So now I was delivering the program not only for MOCIC in the 9 state region that we serve, but I was delivering it throughout the United States. So I sat down with some folks, some other retired DEA agents, and we made a decision to start a nonprofit. So I founded Only 2MG Incorporated. It's a 501(c)(3) recognized by the IRS.
Okay.
And originally, our idea was to focus on illicit fentanyl, but we have since expanded to talk about other public safety threats as well. But our flagship program, if you will, is still illicit fentanyl. It's a powerful drug, and I can tell you, after 30 years in law enforcement, I've never seen a drug change the landscape like fentanyl has. I mean,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
taken over. So that's been really the emphasis of what we're doing. And then really that's how, we mentioned Allison earlier. That's how she got involved. She knew that we were trying to expand our brand and our awareness, and that really started from me and who I am and what I can deliver, and my background, and ultimately what we can offer as a nonprofit. So we're slowly expanding that. We hope to scale that. We have several people in the shadows waiting to instruct, but it's ultimately a money thing. We have to, we're looking at grants, foundation money, things like that. We're trying to develop the relationships to see if we can get someone to write a big check and further our outreach. because ultimately money is, you know, we're for non-for-profit. This isn't for our own pockets, but
Yeah.
money is, that's what pays for plane tickets and hotel rooms
Yep. Yep.
and food, right? And I'm fortunate enough to, I paid for 99.9% of that out of pocket in 2024. And
Okay.
but unfortunately, I don't. My money tree, the branches are getting pretty skinny, so I can't keep on shaking it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we've pushed an emphasis on more outreach like this, the
Yeah.
podcasts, the news articles, and the interviews and things like that. And we want to continue to expand our outreach and to build our partnerships. But we know that traveling is we're limited on traveling. So
Sure.
I haven't traveled as much in 2025 as we had hoped, but
Okay.
I don't consider this a setback. I will keep on swinging this bat until I hit the ball well over the fence, and I know that we're going to be successful in doing that. There's too many people, lives depend on it. There's too
Yeah.
many people that have been impacted by this drug, and that's really my passion. Is I saw a lot of hurt, I saw a lot of damage, I saw what drugs do to our not only families but communities. And my simple mission is to make the world a better place. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe in that. I joined law enforcement to make a difference, and I know I'm no longer in law enforcement as far as I don't wear a badge and gun anymore. But what kind of impact, what kind of positive impact can I have on this world?
Yeah.
And I enjoy doing my own business. I enjoy working for MOCIC, but the only 2MG work that we're doing, I mean, the stories I can tell you, just I mean, they just they raise the hair on my arm. I mean, they're very personal. They're very, it's very impactful. I've had police officer. I had a police officer in a class once who I trained how to use naloxone, Narcan, and I gave her a box. I often give. In fact, you can see him behind me there. A week later, I got an email from that department. She saved a life
Wow.
with the Narcan she gave. The conversations I had with young people, the presentations I did. I did one at a college one time, and about a week later, I was at the college for another event, and one of the students came up to me, and I had no idea who he was, and he says, "I saw you speak, and he made me think about some of the choices I've been making, and these are some of the things I'm working on to, to battle the struggles and the trauma that I'm dealing with, and trying to avoid using drugs and
Yeah.
you know find help." and
Yeah.
and those are powerful conversations, and those things, man, those really motivate me, right? They make me just want to do more and more and more. And so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm pretty busy. I got three hats, but the only 2MG is what I'm very passionate. I'm passionate about everything. I try to give my all to everything I do in life, but certainly putting a lot of attention into the only 2MG because
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
want it to be successful.
So now with the only two MG, Brian, so you're doing training for the other, but what is only two MG? Like, are you going out, or would you like to go out and do more? What does that look like? I mean,
Yeah. So right now, like I said, I'm the only instructor. So I have three presentations. So I have what I call my flagship. It's a 4-hour presentation. That was originally the 2-hour one that I
uh-huh.
developed in 2022. So it's 4 hours and it's very comprehensive. Now, typically, and these are almost always open to the public.
Okay.
But I typically have a law enforcement agency host them.
Okay.
So that's because like I said, I've navigated in this world for 30 years. So it's easy for me to pick up the phone and say, hey, chief, or hey, sheriff, I need a room.
Yeah.
So they'll give me the venue, and that's nice, and then we'll open it up to the public. For the most part, it's usually the first responder community, education, medical treatment, recovery. I'm really trying to get more parents involved and to have them be more proactive as opposed to reactive, but that's been a challenge there. So that's the flagship program. We do that at no cost. If an organization is able to pay, then we asked to see if we can reimburse a hotel or an airfare. But I found that a lot of organizations they just can't afford to bring me in, and not that I'm super expensive. It's just they just don't have that kind of budget, right? And I don't want money to be an issue. That's one of the reasons why I'm really actively trying to fundraise and find grants and foundations, is because if I can pay not only myself, but other instructors to fly to different locations, then we're force multipliers. I truly believe that information is power. And But that's our main presentation. Like I said, I'm the only one doing it right now. We do have another instructor that's about to do some things in his local area, which is
Okay.
awesome. So, it's we're figuring out other ways to scale this. I have I've had a lot of organizations that I was working with at Eagle Six Training, a lot of non civilians, a lot of non-government or not government, non-law enforcement organizations who told me, quite frankly, Brian, we don't have 4 hours. We're interested in learning more about what you're doing, but we don't have 4 hours. So I developed a 1 hour lunch and learn, and we'll literally cater lunch, and I will talk about fentanyl for 1 hour and the evolving drug landscape. And it's interesting. I've never been able to get through that PowerPoint without them stopping and just asking me questions. And I've had more than a few of these executives, C-suite executives who have found time to watch the 4 hour presentation because they're so,
Uh-huh.
so which is a compliment, which is
For
good. We
sure.
need in those positions to take an interest in this. And then finally, I have one that I call Shattering Dreams. It's a 1 hour presentation. It was developed for students.
Okay.
I've My typical audience has been college, some high school, and my youngest audience has been middle school. And I'll obviously adjust it to the age group, make it age appropriate. And there are some schools, quite frankly, that say, "Hey, I won't give you an hour. I'll give you 30 minutes." And you know what? I'm thankful for it because anytime I can get in front of young people and let them know about the evolving landscape and the challenges that they're facing today, the challenges that you and I didn't face when we were their age, and it's just the reality of what drugs have become nowadays. So yeah, I'm doing all three of those presentations. Like I said, I have one instructor in his local area that hopefully will start being a force multiplier and doing this himself. But ultimately, if we can obtain funding, then the idea is to have several of us go out and offer this to, young people, business leaders, law enforcement, parents, just communities, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, hopefully start building, being able to build some coalitions, build to really partner with a lot of folks. And I'd like to expand that, and then use our background, our training. I mean, my board is, like I said, all retired DEA, and we all have pretty diverse. We weren't all working in the same office for 30 years. We all have a lot of different experience. We bring, probably a few hundred years of really diverse experience to the table. So, if an organization is looking for a particular program or something, then by all means, we want to be involved in that discussion and see how we can help. And like I said earlier, we've expanded beyond fentanyl. I mean, that's still the majority of what we're doing, but we get a lot of educators ask us about vaping and marijuana. So we want to stay up on top of the emerging trends and and be the voice to get into these schools, get into these organizations, law enforcement, whoever, and educate them on what's around the corner. Not only what's here, but what are we looking as the next threat type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, how much money would you guys like to raise right now? I mean, if you could just wave your magic wand, Brian, and you could just have that funding, what would you like to have?
You know, I mean, 20, 25,000. I'm trying to be realistic. I mean, obviously, if I had a genie, I'd say $1 million, but I have to be realistic. Even when I've talked to the grant writers and the grants that we've proposed for, I mean, I put in for five, six, $10,000 grants. I don't, I would love to manage more, and I think we have the ability to, but I realize we have to prove ourselves as well. So if I could have, 25,000, I mean, I think about we know the numbers from the last couple of years, especially 2024, when I traveled out of my own pocket, to 54
Yeah.
presentations, 22 states. So we have an idea of what it takes,
Yeah.
and I said I have a number of retired, not only DA, but other law enforcement people who have amazing resumes who we know, like I know my resume will get people in the seats. I don't mean that arrogantly. It's just the reality of it. You
Yeah.
spent 30 years in law enforcement, majority of that time with the DEA. I have a lot of knowledge on the cartels and different things on how, drug traffickers operate. So people want to hear that stuff, right? And so I use that to get them in the seats, and then I give them information that I hope, and I tell every class or everybody I'm ever in front of, I hope you take this information back to your own families. I hope you take this from back information back to your own organizations, your churches, your Rotary clubs, I don't know, your chess club. It doesn't matter. If you can have this conversation, you could potentially save a life. And that's what we ultimately want to do. So yeah, I mean, $25,000 would be a huge start. Right now we're trying to fundraise, and let me tell you, it's a friend of mine was making fun of me because I mean, it's every $5 I get, I mean, I'm socking it into our account, and to me, it's if I have to nickel and dime it, I'm gonna nickel and dime it
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
important. It really is. I'm not paying myself or anything like that. This is primarily travel, and eventually we want to be able to buy. We want to be able to create some literature and naloxone. Just there's things that cost money, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you know that
Yeah.
we got to do what we can do until we can
That's
get there.
right. That's right. Well, I really appreciate you sharing all that. And I will tell you, Brian, there is absolutely no hiding your passion for this. It comes through loud and clear. And, anything I can be doing, right now, like to just help spread the word about what you guys are doing, man, I'm glad to be a part of it and stuff. And so I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here. Now that we've got some context set here and stuff, and I'm going to ask you this question around relationships. So, Brian, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Well, I'm gonna give you. It's my father, and I know I
Okay.
wasn't introduced to him. He was part of why I'm here, right?
Yeah.
But, when I started to get old enough to understand the impact that he was having in my life, it's profound. I mean, he taught me so many amazing things, and really who I am is a lot because of him, and I lost him a few years ago to cancer.
Okay.
Even on his deathbed, it made me question a lot of things in my life and what I was doing, and I left DA at age 50. I had a great office. I was in charge of it, great people, great relationships, and I've had a lot of people say you were crazy. You could have stayed another 5 years. But I had another chapter of my life. I knew there was other ways I could help people. And what was I chasing? A paycheck? Yeah, it was a good paycheck, but and a lot of that just came from my relationship with my father and realizing that, he had a big heart. He always wanted to help people. He had work ethic was amazing. I mean, I don't think the man ever missed a day of work, and so he had that drive, he had that initiative, and I hope that I'm just a quarter of that person, and that would make me proud, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, try not to get too emotional thinking about him, but just an amazing person, really dependable, taught me so many things, just patient, you know. He had his faults, right? We're all human, but a good father, good husband.
Yeah.
Um, he's buried at our National Arlington Cemetery in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
That was a
Okay.
dream of his to be buried next to his fellow soldiers. He was in the Army for 20 years and
Okay.
Vietnam veteran. And remember when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he was like, he knew that getting into Arlington would take a long time. He's like, if you want to bury me somewhere else, that's fine. And I'm like, no, Dad, we're gonna wait. We're gonna get you. And it was nice. It was they played taps and they did the 21 gun salute. He got buried with honors, and
Yeah.
so that meant a lot to see that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What's an example? And I can tell from talking with you already that you're going to be able to come up with probably a lot of examples of this. And I just want to challenge you to come up with one. But what is an example of a situation where you got to make this really substantial impact, and maybe even in the moment it might have surprised you a little bit even, and but you also know that that would have never happened if not for the relationship that you and your dad had?
Yeah, you know what? The one that really pops to mind is something that I did that surprised me that helped him. Um,
Okay.
so I was it's such a random story. I was with DEA and I was the duty agent. So meaning that for I forget, like a week or 2 weeks, I was going to pick up the phone on any type of random calls to the office. And they don't happen a lot, but they occasionally happen. And I get a call from the Veterans Administration. And I have to leave some names out, but some of the story I have to be a little bit coded about,
Sure.
but the gist of it you'll understand here. And they had a patient who was a veteran in an outpatient facility that the VA ran who was stealing from the VA. And I thought, okay, what does this have to do with the Drug Enforcement Administration, right? And they were like, well, he's also involved in distribution of crack cocaine. Well, okay, now you have my interest. And but ultimately, it wasn't a lot of crack cocaine. And my boss was like, well, let's call the U.S. Attorney's Office and see if there's an enhancement, if there's something more, because it's the veterans, it's the VA, right? And that always gets a lot of press, and we don't want to be on the opposite side of that press. Why are you not why are you not helping the VA?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So ultimately, we made a decision to assist them, and early on, I mean, we all thought this was going to be just a make some contacts and do what we can do, and use some of our resources, maybe try to exploit their communications and try to further this case or help them further their investigation. And oh my goodness, this thing just, I mean, we just made the right turns at every step. We end up buying not only crack cocaine, but we end up buying stolen weapons. So we brought the ATF in. He unwittingly took us to his source of supply because we were wanting to buy more drugs than he was able to provide. So he would literally, we were able to introduce an undercover agent into this organization. He would literally drive unwittingly, he had no idea, he would drive the undercover to the bad guy's house, take the money, walk up to the door, buy the drugs, and come back and give the drugs to the undercover agent. So we were able to visual, to see this, right? So we were able to identify the source, who, by the way, had just gotten out of prison for murder. He had done like a 12 year prison term and for murder, got out of prison and he was involved in a very national uh, gang,
Okay.
and immediately got involved with his old gang members and was selling crack cocaine. So we knew he was violent. We knew he had a lot of weapons. Ultimately, we end up arresting him and a few of his co-conspirators. We got a bunch of crack cocaine off the street, many drugs off the street, and we put a dangerous guy back in federal prison.
Mhm.
So, and this was my case, so I'm the one that answered this call, right? So the VA is like, they thought, wow, I was like, first of all, we really got lucky. I mean, I'd like to tell you that every single case we work goes this well. The
Yeah.
reality of it is they just don't, right? But this one, I mean, literally everything we did just worked right. And they said, hey, if you ever, we can share resources that we have. If you ever have an investigation involving a veteran, there's certain things that we can do and things like that. So I didn't think much of it, but my dad, fast forward to my dad, I said 20 years in the military, Vietnam veteran, had some legitimate medical issues from the military. And early on tried to go to the VA, but had all types of issues. There was apparently some type of fire in St. Louis, I don't know, 100 years ago, and a lot of veteran records were destroyed. And he was told his records were destroyed, and that if he wanted a relationship with the VA, you'd have to kind of start over. And he was just frustrated. He was a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape, and no assistance. So he just kind of gave up on him and went to different healthcare, even though he knew that this was available to him. And so because of this investigation, I'm talking to the VA and I'm like, I don't know if you can do anything for me. I know you can't, don't treat me like you wouldn't treat anyone else in the public, but if there's a person or a phone number or an email or anything that can push this ball a little further down the road, can you help me? And one of the guys was like, yeah, absolutely. Actually, my wife is an administrator at the VA, and she knows exactly who he needs to talk to. And I'm telling you, within the next week and then within the next several months, my dad had paperwork. He had advocates who were working with him. and ultimately was able to get 100% disability rating. And if you're a veteran, that's a big deal. And I mean, this was legitimate health issues that were a result of his time, 20, almost 21 years in the Army and in Vietnam War. So my dad to the end, even my mom, are very appreciative for what you did. And it's just, it was a little bit of a payback that I could give to my hero, to someone that made such a difference in my life. So yeah, that's probably the best answer I can give you.
Man, that is a great answer, Brian. That is awesome. And once again, what a powerful testament that is to the power of right relationships right
Yeah.
there. That you just being you taking this call and like you said, things don't normally go that way. Like where like every move you do just seems to be the right move at the right time and talking with the right people, whatever.
And all
And
the relationships. Yeah, I mean, the
yeah,
VA, the ATF. I mean, we were working with, there was a couple different jurisdictions. So we were working with law enforcement. I mean, every single relationship along the way, to this day, I still have these relationships and they all built from this one investigation. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, what a phenomenal example. That is awesome. That is awesome. And I'll tell you, my goal for this podcast has always been really simple, right from the get-go. For you, the guest, I want to give you the opportunity to come on and just share your experience around this topic of relationships and honor somebody who's just been really instrumental in your life. And then for our listeners, who they too, they're entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs of companies. I want to use these conversations to just inspire them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And Brian, with your help today, we definitely delivered on that. And so I want to thank you so much for that. For anybody that might be listening to this right now and just thinking to themselves, "Man, Kev, I really like Brian. I love who he is. I love how he shows up. I really applaud the work that he's doing. And maybe they want to find out more about the work you're doing. Maybe some stuff that you said just resonated with them, and maybe they might feel that they're inclined to like maybe help you guys out financially and stuff. Maybe they want to get involved in that way. How can anybody go about following up on this? And if they wanted to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
Yeah, our website is only2mg.com. So
Okay.
ONLY and then two, just the number, it's not spelled out, and then mg.com.
Okay. Okay.
Only2mg.com. And then on that website, actually just built another relationship, found someone who's a web designer who was willing to redo the entire page for free and get it up
Nice.
to today's standards. It's not there yet. He's still working behind the scenes because he has his real job and everything. But the website is active. It'll tell you more about what we're doing. It'll tell you more about me. It'll tell you my schedule. It'll tell you how to get a hold of me. Just basically anything you want to know about Only 2MG and the work that we're doing.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so that's the best way. I do have eagle6training.com, but there's links on the Only 2MG website. And that, like I
Okay.
said, that's what I'm focused on everything. Eagle 6 training pays for a lot of things that I do for Only 2MG, but that's what that's what saves lives. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the difference that I can hopefully continue to make in this world.
Yeah. Any last thing you felt led to share, Brian, before we call it a wrap?
No, I appreciate your time. It's amazing what relationships do, right? I think I got relationships right in my career, but I also think I wish I would have looked at it a little differently early on. I didn't, you realize the power of them, right? When you can think about these experiences in life. But there's sometimes there was relationships I would have maintained better,
Uh-huh.
early on in my career. And because the last thing you want to do is, you have let's say you have a mutual relationship or you have a friend that you meet and then he or she they become a CEO or they become and then all of a sudden 15 years later, hey, can you help me? It doesn't feel authentic to me, and that's important to me is having that authentic, not just hey, how you doing, but I mean actually building a relationship,
Yeah.
building a bond with that person.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like I've done that pretty well, but then I feel like sometimes I didn't. And I wish if I ever had a redo in life, that's what I would work on is making sure that I don't let any of those not be damaged, but maybe get stale, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that would be the advice is, maintain these relationships and it's powerful. It really is just, and I think it's what we need as humans is that social interaction and it just makes us better and it makes what we do better. And
Amen.
so, yeah, thank you for the
Absolutely.
opportunity to talk about that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing from your heart and stuff. And yeah, this has been awesome. And I am excited to get this out and share it with a lot of other people. So thanks again, Brian.
Thank you, Kevin. Take care.